We all know that the storms of life strike at the most unexpected times. I've had the privilege of traveling all over the world and staying in homes of people in different parts of the world, and you don't have to travel too much until you discover that every home has its heartache. Every heart has its shadows. I have 7 children, and I have 3 grandsons. And when my first grandson was born, we were very excited, of course, and it wasn't long until we discovered that he had been born deaf in both his ears. And then along came the second grandson, and it wasn't long until we saw there was something that concerned us there, and the doctors told us that he was severely autistic. And to this day, although he's 8 years old, he's never said a word. And then along came the third grandson, and he was even more severely autistic than the previous one. But you know, lots of people have their stories. Lots of people have their problems. And the question really is, when the problems of life come, do they drive us away from God or closer to God? The question is often asked this way: if God is a God of love, why is there so much suffering in the world? And it seems that people come up with one of 3 options. Option number 1, I don't think there is a God. How could there be a God with so much chaos and trouble in the world? A friend of mine visited the city of Cologne in the days before the Second War. And there he saw the beautiful Cologne Cathedral, one of the most exquisite pieces of architecture that has ever been built by man. He was back again after the war, and you know, the city of Cologne had the dubious honor of being the most bombed city in Europe, because it was the railhead of the Ruhr Valley where the German Nazi war machine was being built. He wondered if Cologne Cathedral had survived, but as he drew near, he saw great gaping holes in the roof of that structure and stained glass windows blown to smithereens. As he stood and looked at the structure, he said, "Now, should I assume, because the building was in ruins, that therefore there was no builder?" "Oh no," he said. "In fact, there were things I could learn about the builders now that I couldn't learn before. I could look into the structure and see the great beams that held the building together that had been hidden before." And he said, "You know, there are some things we can only learn about God in the tough times of life. God didn't build this world to be a place of suffering. The Bible makes it clear that when God made the world, he saw everything, that it was very good." But obviously something has happened. Something tragic has happened in the world. And the Bible tells us what it is. There has been a civil war in the universe. There was a superhuman spirit being. His name was Lucifer. He was to be a servant of God. But he decided to put self in the place of God and said, "I'll be God." And God cast him down. And since that time, this one now known as Satan or the devil has led a long war against God. Sadly, the human race decided to side with him in his battle. And of course, when we think about how God made the world, some people ask, well, why didn't God make people so they couldn't sin, so they couldn't make bad choices? Well, it's a bit like a Russian election, isn't it? You can vote, but there's only one party. Well, that's not really an election at all, is it? That's not a real choice if there aren't real options. If I say to my little boy, David, you tell me you love me. And he says, I love you, Dad. And I say, thank you, son, that warms my heart. It doesn't work that way, does it? Love has to be a real choice if it's going to be love at all. And we have laws against people who, when they love someone and the person doesn't love them back, they go and force their love on that person. Why, you wouldn't want that to happen to you, would you? And so love is a choice. And God gave the human race a choice. And the sad record of the human race is that we chose not to love God. We chose to cut ourselves loose from him. And you can see that. The Bible tells us that we're all rebels. And some people say, now, wait a minute, sir. You've come here from Michigan to defame my character? You've come to tell me I'm a rebel? I don't think I'm a rebel. Well, let me give you a few tests. We see a sign that says, wet paint do not touch. What do you want to do? You just want to see if it's wet, don't you? Someone has said that what God should have told Adam and Eve was, don't eat the snake. And we come by it naturally, you know. You put a child into a room full of toys, and you say, you can play with any toys you want, honey. Just don't touch the thing on the piano, all right? As far as they're concerned, there's only one thing in the room. They want to get the thing that they can't have. The best way to make a book a bestseller is ban it. And all of a sudden, everybody wants it. So when we think about this problem we have in our hearts, what's gone wrong with the world? The famous writer G.K. Chesterton on one occasion responded to an editorial in the London Times. The question was, what's wrong with the world? He sent in this short letter to the editor. Dear sir, I am, respectfully, G.K. Chesterton. We look into the mirror and we realize we don't even come up to our own standards, let alone God's. We don't even keep our own New Year's resolutions. We need to get fixed.